Thank you for tuning into IoT Connect, where we're covering some of the most interesting topics, trends, and news around the Internet of Things. IoT Connect is brought to you by TEAL, a wholly owned, patented, mission-critical connectivity platform that helps to connect any IoT device onto any network globally. Today, we've got a really exciting show. We've got the CEO and founder of TEAL with us today to talk about some really exciting updates in the world of eSIM. Robby Hamblet, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Today's a big one. We're going to talk about
so I want to delve into that because recently at CES there was a lot of buzz around SGP.32. eSIM's obviously been a hot topic for the last couple of years, but can you talk about OpenEIM, what it is, and why we should all be excited about this new offering?
Yeah, OpenEIM is our EIM product. And if you don't know what an EIM is, it is a orchestration component of SGP.32. So eSIMs in IoT today have all been managed by, well, they're either completely unmanaged and they're using something like the iPhone standard, which is called SGP.22, or they're using the IoT standard called SGP.02. In 02, there's an SMSR, and that is basically what is licensing and orchestrating what networks that device can get onto, what profiles, what eSIM functionality is unlocked for that user. With the new standard, people wanted to make it, the industry wanted to make it easier to use eSIM, reduce the barrier, make it so that you could bring your own SIM card and your own carrier into an eSIM solution, not just kind of be stuck in what you were given at the start. So OpenEIM is our initiative to even reduce that barrier further by creating this free and open system so that people could use eSIM, adopt eSIM, and in general, just have a better time with cellular products.
So for those of us that are maybe dangerous on a surface level, what does EIM stand for?
That's a tricky one, actually, because you would think that it would, and it makes the most sense to me, it's an eUICC identity manager. But the actual acronym is like eSIM IoT Remote Manager, and they just throw away the R and they use like they're breaking all the acronym rules where they're putting like two letters from one of the words into the acronym, but ignoring a whole other word. It's silly, but we just think about it as a manager for your eSIM. So it's something you're bringing the device and the card or the chip to then use it to orchestrate and manage remotely what lives inside of that device.
Okay, cool. So it's also supporting SGP.32, so the GSMA's new eSIM standard for IoT. Why should people out there be excited, specifically about TEAL's OpenEIM?
It's definitely a game changer. So it's in the name, right? It's open. So we want to make it so that we're not locking people into a specific ecosystem or environment. We really wanted to put our money where our mouth is. We've been talking about, if you've listened to any of these podcasts or read any of our material, we've been talking about true and real eSIM concepts for a long time. There have been a lot of fragmented platforms developed over the years where somebody thinks they're getting an eSIM, but they can't actually do what they want with it because the rules of who can get into that device, what networks you can activate, they're written by the SMSR, they're written by who's in control of the SMSR. By making our EIM open and free, we're not going to be the ones authoring those rules. That means the device user and their relationship with the networks is first. That means the IoT OEM, the enterprise that's actually deploying the technology, gets to have a say and maintain their relationships with their operators. We're not going to get in the middle of them and their operator relationships. This is something that if you're familiar with the MVNO space, you see a lot. The MVNO provides you with eSIM functionality, but it's only going to work within their networks. TEAL is going to be there to provide easy built-in integrations to networks that customers don't have. But there are still so many customers that are shipping static SIM cards. They're still activating millions of lines with just that one MNO. To pull out a random example, like you're using T-Mobile in the US and you're just using a T-Mobile SIM card. That's all it'll ever do. And that's because the complexity of eSIM in the previous standards was just too hard to manage. It was too hard to reach. With OpenEIM, we want to make it open. We want to make it free, reduce the barriers, and support all the cool business models that couldn't be supported in previous standards, like bringing your own SIM to the platform and bringing your own carrier into the platform.
Okay, so I want to delve into that a little bit more too. So it's truly an open and free approach to eSIM management. I think many people have heard about, bring your own carrier. So that's great functionality. But can you talk about bring your own SIM? Because I don't think that's something that people in the industry have heard that much about.
Yeah, a lot of people bring their own SIM every single day without really realizing it. If you're using an iPhone in any of the Western markets, there are still some markets where Apple doesn't use eSIM only. But if you've ever activated an iPhone on a network in the last few years, chances are you brought your own SIM to that network. And that functionality really hasn't existed for IoT because of how all the chips are fragmented, how people source the supply chain. Now with OpenEIM, it's becoming a software layer. And so customers can bring the SIM that came with their device and their module into this platform, and TEAL will enable that customer to activate whatever carriers they want, given the compatibility. Obviously, you can't activate a network that's never going to work in your equipment, but we're reducing the artificial barriers that were created by allowing customers to bring the SIM that was included with their device instead of having to do those plastic SIM cards, which for a long time were easier to use and came without an extra cost. Now we're being even easier to use, and again, no extra cost to do bring your own SIM functionality.
So that's really a game changer, as you mentioned. Bring your own carrier, bring your own SIM onto the TEAL platform, and you can activate it, on the carrier of your choice or the carrier that you need, free of charge.
Yeah, it's completely free. There's new models where this is going to take off. There are so many use cases that haven't been able to adopt eSIM technology because of the cost, because of the complexity. We have customers with hundreds of different SKUs, and a lot of people think about eSIM as like, oh, I can just switch between carriers. That's great. Sometimes you have to switch between carrier profiles within the carrier, right? Like a fixed wireless profile or an unlimited data plan or an NB-IoT subscription. These things created so much complexity that if you were an OEM, if you were building a really big platform with hundreds of devices and supporting all those different use cases, it was basically impossible for you to use eSIM at scale because of how expensive and time consuming it was to set up in the previous standards, those integrations. Now, because you can bring your own SIM and because you can bring your own carrier so easily, we want to make that all lightning fast and make it so that you can self-serve that functionality.
So you talked about OEMs. Who is OpenEIM really suited for?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I hope that it will be in every product in cellular IoT. That's a huge ambition, obviously. The people that we're talking to right now are mostly OEMs and MNOs, the people that really care about the cellular product experience and have a stake in it. Like, if you're an OEM, you want to make your product easier to activate, right? You don't want to give your customers something that they then have to do another step to then activate on the carrier that they want to. You want to give them something that works no matter what without having to kit it in a warehouse, do connectivity tests, site surveys, all that kind of stuff. OpenEIM and SGP.32 technology from TEAL increases or improves the cellular product experience for anybody using any kind of OEM product, a module, a router, any kind of kit that you might get that includes a cellular connection. Now it's all a digital sign-up process. No more waiting for SIM cards, no more having to kit it out in a factory. And I think that's why EIMs and OpenEIM in particular are so interesting to OEMs, because they can now offer this service to their customers to just make their devices easier to work with. On the flip side of that, the networks are now easier to address. You don't have to bump into the right person at a trade show in order to get an NB-IoT subscription. The operator can serve you with a URL. It's that easy. They can send you via email the same capability that they used to have to mail to you and make you purchase off of a specific website, deal with shipping addresses, and then you had to turn it into your device and then test and get it in your supply chain and all that complexity. So I think OpenEIM will benefit all customers, all cellular IoT customers, every enterprise down the road, especially ones with complexity. That's where they'll see the biggest difference. People that want to use eSIM and want to use a lot of it. But the OEMs and the MNOs are really who it's built to serve immediately, right? And then once it's in those products, then enterprise will be able to take advantage of it.
Okay, so one question that's probably on people's minds is that people have never really heard of anything like this. So how can TEAL, from a business standpoint, afford to offer this functionality for free?
Yeah, we developed our own technology. So unlike a connectivity reseller that you traditionally work with, we're not taking things from other vendors. We developed this in-house. We certified this in-house. This is our platform. We developed it in a way that it's self-serve and multi-tenant, which allows us to support customers that don't pay us any money, right? That's to support the users that just want to improve their cellular experience and they don't need anything from TEAL. We want to be open and free for those users. TEAL obviously has a business model in general. The idea is that these customers that are using these free services may need help with API development with these operators. They may need access to a carrier that they don't already have today. And TEAL is the easy kind of self-serve ability to access those complex solutions that previously would have to be developed, kind of on a one-off basis.
So this is, in other words, it can kind of be viewed as a gateway into TEAL's connectivity management platform, where if they need access to another global network, it's there, it's ready, and it's available to them.
Yeah, you don't have to build it alone, right? So if you have a great relationship with Verizon in the US, this is a way for you to activate all your Verizon profiles for free in a completely digital way that you haven't been able to do without a lot of development on your own end. When it comes to then scaling into other markets, other carriers, we think that TEAL's crowdsourced ecosystem that we're building through OpenEIM will be the way to do it. And that's where there are other options for customers that might want more complexity out of their eSIM functionality than just activating, a few different network profiles that they already have.
Well, this is all very exciting, and I really appreciate you taking the time to expand on just how powerful this new offering from TEAL is. For those of you out there that want to learn more about TEAL, you can visit us online at TEAL.io, and you can learn more about our OpenEIM eSIM management solution by clicking the link in the post. We'll also drop it here on the screen. Robby, thank you for joining us. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
Nope. If your business is looking at SGP.32 and you want to be on the leading edge of eSIM technology, give us a shout. We'd love to work together.
Great. Thanks, Robby.
Thanks.